Heyo, and what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight. The WWE follows up the greatest Smackdown episode in the last 3 to 5 years with a follow-up tape-delayed episode that once they finished editing the tape that they filmed from earlier today across the pond in Manchester, United Kingdom, they should have taken that tape that they compiled, shined it up real nice, turned that sumbitch sideways, stuck it straight up Vince McMahon's candy ass, and then threw that old man in a flaming dumpster with a gigantic sticker that says, "Deport back to the United States in the biggest trash factory you could find and incinerate immediately." Because Vince McMahon and the WWE made me wish that last week's awesome SmackDown featuring the NXT invasion never even happened. And why do I feel that way? Because it's like getting a taste of the forbidden fruit. We got a chance to see just how great an episode of SmackDown could be. Sure, they didn't have half the roster. Sure, their backs were put up against the wall. But what happened is they formulated a good show. So it is possible. But if you watch tonight, it's almost as if none of that ever even happened. We're going to talk about it right here and right now. My name is Nick Nightmare, and you are watching the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show's Friday Night SmackDown Review and Reaction Show. Let's do it.
The Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
You're going to hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, I don't understand how they could get this so wrong." It's very easy to understand, because last week's episode of SmackDown was never a plan. It was never part of the plan. It was never in the cards for an NXT invasion. They were going to include NXT in the Survivor Series for the first time ever, only because they are now a network television brand. That is the only reason they're including NXT. They're trying to drive up the ratings for the NXT show by including them in a main roster pay-per-view that everybody thinks now they're on the same level as SmackDown and Raw, and maybe other people will tune in to NXT. There was no plan for this invasion. If you watched tonight's episode of Friday Night SmackDown, you cannot tell me that there was a plan in play. Because all they did was take a few certain segments and press the repeat button on them this week. And then they had a nonsensical segment where we seen the Imperium from NXT UK show up as the NXT contingent and beat up Heavy Machinery for no apparent reason. Heavy Machinery was supposed to have a match against some people, I guess. I don't know. We never found out who Heavy Machinery was supposed to be fighting. They just got jumped by the Imperium, and there was no need for it. There was no reason for it. It was a forced, unnecessary way to say NXT invasion of SmackDown. There is no fucking invasion. This is ridiculous. It's the WWE's MO. It's what they do to us all the time. As soon as they find out that we enjoy something, or we think something is cool, or we find something interesting, they take it and they turn it into a giant ball of shit. And then they shove it down your throat no matter how disgusting it feels now, because it's not what it was when we wanted it to begin with. The NXT invasion came out of nowhere, and we all had great expectations. And we're like, oh, they're going to take this and ride this wave all the way to the Survivor Series. The next couple of weeks is going to be some great TV. But we were all fooled. I was amongst the very small minority that told you guys this was going to happen. I said, as soon as Vince McMahon touches ground and has all of his pieces to play with, all of this that we saw last week was going to go right under the rug. And that is what essentially happened tonight. Because we found it interesting. We turned around and said it was the greatest show of the year. So what are they going to do? They're going to just take little elements of it and try to string you along and make you believe it. They're going to take what we like and turn it into shit. Just like they did with Seth Rollins. Just like they did with The Fiend. Just like they did with Becky Lynch. Just like they did with Kofi Kingston. They see you're interested, they get behind it just a little bit, and then they do something to it that makes you just not want to see it anymore. And I don't understand how they acquired this talent, because they are the most talented company in the world at taking something that you love and making you hate everything about it. And that goes for the sport of professional wrestling itself. This episode of SmackDown was a travesty. This is what you were going to get last week if everybody made it back from Saudi in time. This was the show you were going to get. Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin in the main event because of something that happened on Backstage, a fucking show that nobody's watching and you shouldn't be watching because it's trash. It's even more trash than these two pieces of crap we review from the main roster every single week. Tommaso Ciampa is right. NXT should be deemed the main roster because you're giving us programs like this tonight, and I just wanted to blow my own brains out. And that's not something I ever want to feel. I know a lot of you guys were probably half asleep by the time we hit the 8:30 hour because this show was worthless. Absolutely worthless. One moment on this whole entire night caught my interest. Only one. And even that one moment has me worried. And obviously, you guys know I'm talking about how The Fiend finally showed up on SmackDown. Not as the champion, not to unveil his new championship title belt, not to do anything really all that cool. All he did was attack Daniel Bryan. So now we are going to have The Fiend in a program with Daniel Bryan to come, which is going to be great. But we've seen Bray Wyatt versus Daniel Bryan before. We haven't seen him versus The Fiend before, but essentially I'm afraid we're going to go down similar paths. From when Daniel Bryan was being stalked by the Wyatt family, now he's going to be stalked by The Fiend. And if you see what they did with The Fiend and Bray Wyatt and Seth Rollins, you have every reason, like me, to be afraid of them putting The Fiend opposite Daniel Bryan. I do not want to see Daniel Bryan matches in red. I don't want to sit here for the first 5 minutes of that matchup futzing with my options and my color and my contrast and my brightness to try to make sure that I could see what the hell is going on during a Universal Championship match featuring two guys that I very much enjoy. We're going to get a good match. We're probably going to get a decent story. Daniel Bryan is great, but I'm still confused as to how Daniel Bryan ended up being back on the babyface side of things. It's just, I'm not with Rowan anymore, so now I'm going to tease you guys with the yes chance. I'm going to walk this line. We're going to have me maybe join with Sammy and his little Un-Americans faction he's kind of working on right now. Nah, I don't see that being the case. The crowd is hungry for somebody that they enjoy. The Daniel Bryan act is an act that everybody for the most part enjoys, whether he's being a shit-face, earth-loving heel, or whether he's being the yes movement leader. Daniel Bryan is somebody we're going to want to and always have wanted to get behind, so I can't shit on this too much. I want to see this matchup. I'm just afraid of what they're going to do with it. Bray Wyatt shouldn't be losing. But with what they did with Seth, I guess nothing that they do with him matters anymore. I don't want everything to be over the top. They need to start toning it down and reining it in just a little bit more reality-based so that it doesn't seem so far-fetched. And stop with the red lighting during the Fiend matches. It doesn't make it special. It's awful. But that was the only thing. The Fiend, Mandible Claws, Daniel Bryan, leading us down this path. Great! Everything else was garbage. And to make it even more painful, they ruined the Survivor Series. They ruined the Survivor Series because for some unknown reason, some godforsaken reason, they felt it absolutely necessary to give the New Day the championships again when we are on the precipice of having one of the most entertaining and refreshing and brand new matchups we could ever see. We were going to have the Viking Raider Warrior Raiders versus the Undisputed Era versus the Revival at the Survivor Series for brand supremacy. And the WWE felt the need to say, fuck the Revival. Again. For what? so that the New Day can say, oh, we're trying to catch up with Charlotte Flair? So that they can say, let's win it for the Woods. Let's win it for Xavier because he's injured. And we're going to be 7-time tag team champions. To add what? So that they could say that during this match? Oh, this match is going to feature 7-time tag team champions, the New Day. They found the one possible thing they could do outside of maybe putting a makeshift stupid tag team together for no reason at all, which they love to do, and we will get to that on this show in a minute. But they put the New Day back in there, and they give them the championships again. They didn't give the New Day a match with the Revival tonight to solidify that the Revival are awesome and that they beat the New Day and that they are going to go on and defend their brand. No, and I don't understand why this is. A consolation prize for Kofi. Oh, we're so sorry, Kofi, that we screwed you over with the Brock Lesnar, so we're going to give you the tag team titles until Xavier comes back. Why? I'm struggling to understand. It makes absolutely no sense. And if you know anything about this show, the one thing I have no tolerance for is when things not only suck, but they don't even make sense. They're not even trying. They're not even trying to give us anything new and different. They had it there on the plate like you're going to be sitting there at Thanksgiving. You know you're going to have turkey and stuffing and potatoes. And it's like somebody said, you know what, we're not going to have turkey. We're going to have a big fillet of fish. And no potatoes for you, bro. You're going to get kale. You're going to get a big old fucking dish of kale and you're going to think it's delicious because we said so. How could you give me that match and then change it to this? They ruined Survivor Series. Another way they ruined Survivor Series. And I can't even believe I'm about to say this to you guys. But the women are getting a traditional 5-on-5, I believe, or 4-on-4 Women's Survivor Series matchup. Fantastic. I love traditional Survivor Series matchups. Sasha Banks apparently is going to be the captain of the SmackDown team. Or at least the first member of the SmackDown team. That has been announced. Bayley's going to be busy, so she's not going to be part of the team. And we're going to have a tag team matchup tonight. And we're going to have the winner of this tag team matchup be placed onto the Survivor Series team alongside Sasha Banks. Team number 1, Fire and Desire. Mandy Rose has gotten significantly better. You guys know I've been easing my stance on Fire and Desire. I think they've been coming together very well. I'm interested in Sonya Deville now more than I've ever been. They've both been showing great improvement in the ring. And they're an actual team. And they've been a team since day one. From before they were Absolution and before they were Fire and Desire. They've been together as buds forever. And I like it. I like it. I think it works better than most of the other pairings that they've come up with. And they place them in this matchup with Carmella and Dana Brooke. If this is your first time here at the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, and you don't know my feelings about Dana Brooke, she's a gigantic, walking disaster. And I don't mean gigantic as a slight on her body. It's about the size of the disaster she is. She's awful in the ring. She's awful at promos. We got to hear the announce team try to put her over. Oh, she's the hardest working hardest working sausage factory in all of the WWE. I don't care. I also don't care for you having Carmella and Dana Brooke beat Fire and Desire. Don't put over your actual tag teams. You got Carmella and Dana Brooke teaming together for what I can remember the first time ever, beating an established team, a team that would be much better on the marquee alongside the name of Sasha Banks to defend the honor of the SmackDown brand in Survivor Series tag team warfare. But we're not going to go with the logical choice. We're not going to... I would have even forgiven them for the predictable choice, because who the hell wants to have Carmella and Dana Brooke as a team on their squad? I wouldn't be picking them, that's for sure. You got Nikki Cross. You got Ember Moon. She should be back by Survivor Series as far as I know. You got Ruby Riott on the precipice of coming back. You got Liv Morgan hanging out somewhere. I don't even know if she's on Raw or SmackDown. Doesn't even matter at this point. You come up with this. You ruin the Survivor Series women's matchup by putting two women in there that really... Actually, you know what? I'll even forgive Carmella. I will forgive Carmella because at the least, Carmella has been a focal point of the television programming we've been forced to sit through throughout the entirety of 2019. How often do we see a Dana Brooke that she needs to be on a Survivor Series team? I don't understand it. This girl has not been on TV almost at all in 2019. And when we have seen her, we've wanted to throw up in the garbage pail because she just ruins our night. With her dick lips. And her stupid flips. And her botches in the ring. And the push that WWE continues to try to give her. You put her next to Emma. You put her next to Charlotte. Now you're putting her next to Carmella. She's the new Natty. She's a good girl one week. She's a bad girl the next week. And who gives a shit? And why did you do this? I don't know. I don't know. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Because these are the things that were wrong with SmackDown Live. You're going to say, oh, it was a great show. It was such a great show, Mr. Nightmare. You don't know what you're talking about. I know what I'm talking about. Believe me, I know what I'm talking about. And I don't want to hear it from any of you ass bags that are watching me for the first time that, oh, this guy I don't know, he's an AEW mark, he's a this and he's that. No, man. Absolutely not. I look at every wrestling show with the same set of eyes, and these eyes see things that people do wrong. The whole purpose of the show is to tell you what was wrong with the show. It could have been a AAA 5-star show that we watched, and I will find something wrong. Even with that, because that is the purpose of the show. So don't sit here and tell me, why are you so negative? Why do you always got to talk about it? Because that's the point of the show, dickbags. So don't come at me with that shit. My sledgeheads know the deal, and they are here to stay, and they are waving their hammers at home as well. Because they know for sure that I'm 100% right. You can't look at today's show and compare it to last week, and even think it's the same company. I'm not allowed to be mad? You want to give me Tyson Fury and Braun Strowman in a useless segment? I'm not supposed to be mad? You want to have them squash an actual tag team? I'm supposed to be mad? I'm not supposed to be mad? I'm not supposed to be mad at that? You want to have the women's division, have Shayna Baszler show up again and do the exact same thing you did last week because everybody thought it was so cool. But instead of it being Bayley beating Nikki Cross, we'll have Nikki Cross lose for the second week in a row. This time she'll lose to Sasha Banks, and we'll have Shayna Baszler attack after the match once again. I'm supposed to not get mad? Using absolutely zero parts of their brain, 0% of their brain power. Giving us this shit. Like I said in the open. As soon as they wrapped filming, and they gave this tape to Dunn and his monkeys in the back, and they, let's make a show, blah, 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 and put together this piece of crap. They should have watched it back real quick, and then threw it right in the garbage. So you know what? Air a rerun of last week. Everybody loved it so much, I would have much rather spent 2 hours of my time tonight watching that. We've been ranting for 19 minutes. We didn't even touch Baron Corbin's fucking ridiculous promo. This guy must really know what we think about him, and he wanted to throw it back in our face. You see, he centered his promo on Roman Reigns tonight on poop jokes. 5th grade level, doggy bag poop jokes. And making fun of Roman Reigns' 3D graphics. Because this is a thing we do now. We have a big giant 3D head barking like a puppy dog instead of like a big dog. I'm supposed to give a shit? He gives one of the worst promos he has ever given. Oh, you just watch, Mr. Nightmare. You just watch what Baron Corbin does once he's the king of the ring. And what did I tell you he was going to do? He was going to stink that shit up. He was going to make me regret that the king of the ring ever came back in the first place, because it was only a way to hit the reset button on Baron Corbin and give him leeway to do shit like this that makes me want to bash my head in with good old Thor here. Awful. Oh, the locker room is all upset. They need a locker room leader. They want a king. They don't want a dog. What the fuck are we watching? Then we find out Roman Reigns isn't even here. Baron Corbin's sitting there waiting for Roman Reigns. You know what? I was waiting for Roman Reigns. I was hoping he would come out, if for no other reason than just to end this segment. We all already knew. We all had the match advertised for 2 weeks already as the main event of SmackDown on Fox. Why did we have to open the show to establish the match? Why do we have to push this match any further than that? You announced it. We know what's going to happen. We don't want to see it as it is. Great. Why do we have to waste more TV time on it? Why do I have to waste more time on my review talking about how bad this was? Baron Corbin wants to give him props for beating cancer. He knows how his brothers in the Shield are far, far ahead of him. He talks about the big dog's testicles and how they shrunk into marbles. We're talking about poop. We're talking about testicles. And you're going to tell me this don't have Vince McMahon's M.O., his little signature right at the bottom, personally written by me. Listen to what I've done. They get my humor. All I get watching this show is a goddamn ulcer. That's all I get. I get disgusted. I get disheartened. I get depressed. And yet we still watch. Oh, you still watch it? Yeah, of course I watch it. I'm a wrestling fan, idiot. This is just as painful as watching my New York Giants every freaking Sunday. Every single person in New York this weekend knows what it feels like to be a wrestling fan and a fan specifically of the WWE. Because whether you're rooting for the Giants or whether you're rooting for the New York Jets, this Sunday they're going head to head in a match that people are calling the Loser Bowl. That doesn't mean I'm not going to watch it. That doesn't mean if the Giants don't win, I'm not going to shit all over them and talk trash about my own team because they're a piece of garbage right now. It's honesty. It's what we do. It's what fandom is all about. If you can't get mad when your team or your show is doing something wrong, then you don't have passion and you don't give a shit just as much as they don't. And that's not right. It's as wrong as the existence of this whole entire show. SmackDown Tag Team titles are on the line. The New Day defeats the Revival. I don't give a shit whether or not the match is good or not. You could have put on a 20-minute 5-star classic right here. The minute that 3 count went down and the titles were taken from the Revival and given to the New Day, thus ruining a great match that was being advertised for Survivor Series, I immediately check it off on the wrong list. Because that was so wrong, I can't even make a check mark big enough. Awful. Awful decision making. Roman Reigns walking around backstage. He's getting to the building late, I guess. But he bumps into Shorty G, Chad Gable. And did they give this guy... Listen, look, all right, listen. It was one thing that they gave him the basketball getup, but is it just me, or is it like 3 times too big for him now? Did they get him like the double XL version? Did they get him Charles Barkley size gear to make him look like even more of a child in a man suit? Did they? Because that's what it looked like to me. You could color it navy and gold. You can color it blue and green. You can color it whatever color you want. It looked like it was 3 sizes too big. Throw that shit in the dryer, Mr. Gable. If you're going to look like an idiot, at least make it fit. Don't look even more like a clown than you've been looking like in the last few weeks. And not only does he look like a little baby child, he wants to tell Roman Reigns what Baron Corbin said, so now he's a little tattletale. Chad Gable the tattletale, what a little baby. We come to the back where Sami Zayn stops Daniel Bryan. Sami Zayn is trying to recruit Daniel Bryan to be part of his little faction that he's got going on. He's got Shinsuke Nakamura. He's got Cesaro. He wants Daniel Bryan. He's talking about how Adam Cole would have been no problem for him last week if he would have had Sami Zayn and Shinsuke and Cesaro in his corner to counteract the Undisputed and Adam Cole and Triple H and all of the stuff that went down last week. We all know Daniel Bryan is not that type of guy who's going to want to do that. Sami Zayn is pushing it on. He tells Daniel Bryan, just ask Cesaro what he and Nakamura has done for him. Cesaro and Nakamura tonight will be in tag team action, and he asks Daniel Bryan to please come join them at ringside, watch the match, and see for himself why he should be a part of this thing that Sami's got going. This was a decent promo by Sami. And I'm mildly interested, at this point even, in what they're doing with Daniel Bryan going forward. Because he's, as I'm watching here, he's either going to go full heel and join up with these guys, or he's going to go against them and go back down the yes road. Either way, I don't care. Let's just push the pedal to the metal. But we would go a little bit off this road, come a little bit further down the line in SmackDown, as we already mentioned earlier in the broadcast, because he ends up getting his shit choked out by Bray Wyatt. So all of this that happened, all of this establishment that happened, Daniel Bryan being out there for the match itself, all means nothing because this storyline is dead. Because he's being put face to face with the Fiend. We'll have to see what happens there. We go back to ringside. Out comes Heavy Machinery, Tucker and Otis for their matchup against whoever. Suddenly they are attacked by the Imperium. WWE UK Champion Walter, Marcel Barthel, Fabian Eichner, and Alexander Wolf. They absolutely eviscerate one of the toughest, one of the most new and over tag teams on SmackDown. Why couldn't this have been where the New Day went? Part of SmackDown Live. The New Day is coming out for a match and they got obliterated by the Imperium. I think the Imperium would have gotten much bigger headlines, much bigger notoriety, and it would have been a bigger impact for them, hands down, than beating up Tucker and Otis. I know everybody loves them, but they're only here for a blip. Imagine they did it to the New Day instead. There's a better idea for you. And then we get the save by more SmackDown superstars. Apollo Crews came out. Ali, Chad Gable made his way out there. The Imperium runs away, exits through the crowd, as the SmackDown superstars are left standing in the ring in unison. I don't get it. I don't know why they decided to add NXT UK into the mix. It is its own separate entity. They barely intertwine the two shows, but I mean, I guess just by being in Manchester, you want to get that big pop by having the hometown version of NXT get involved, but that makes it feel forced to me, because what are Walter and the Imperium going to have to do with Survivor Series? Nothing. Are they going to even be on the War Games pay-per-view? For NXT? No. They perform on the NXT UK shows, right? I guess we'll have to wait and see. But it just felt like we'll just do this so that they can say, oh, NXT's invading again. Even though it doesn't mean jack shit. Because there is no NXT invasion. Kayla Braxton is backstage with Sasha Banks. She wants to talk last week about everything that happened, being attacked by Shayna Baszler. Sasha Banks says that was just Baszler trying to make herself relevant. They both go on about how they built NXT. That's Bayley and Sasha. They built the NXT that Shayna Baszler is currently reigning supreme on. Sasha Banks says she's also going to dominate Nicki Cross the same way she dominated NXT. And I already told you guys what happened at the end of that matchup, because it was just a repeat of last week, just changing the pieces around to make you feel like you're seeing something new, even though there was nothing new about any of it. Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro versus Ali and Chad Gable. This was an unnecessary matchup to put forward an unnecessary storyline, which I feel like is going to go right to the wayside, as we discussed with Daniel Bryan. I don't know if it matters that he was out at ringside watching this whole entire matchup. He watched Sami Zayn and his boys cheat to win, and Nakamura drops Ali with the Kinshasa, gets the pinfall. Cesaro and Nakamura win. After the match, we see replays of everything while Daniel Bryan is just staring back at them from the stage. We come back and we get Nicki Cross versus Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks defeating her with, I wouldn't say relative ease, but she didn't really seem like she was having too much trouble with Nicki Cross. Nicki Cross taps out to the Banks statement, but this match was inconsequential and not the story, because after Sasha Banks stands tall, Bayley jumps into the ring and starts to attack I'm not Shayna Baszler, but she starts to attack whoever the fuck it was. Nicki Cross. See how irrelevant it was? I just lost my place and I lost who I was talking about. Bayley starts to attack Nicki Cross because at some point during the match, Nicki Cross got her hands on Bayley. She's trying to get retribution. And while the retribution is going down, Shayna Baszler hits the ring and just drops Bayley once again for the second week in a row, doing the same thing that we did last time. As Sasha Banks looks on, Shayna Baszler makes her exit. Backstage, Sami Zayn is with Daniel Bryan. Sami is still pushing his agenda, telling him that he has to not go back to the Yes chants. Don't go back to the Yes movement. Move forward with Shinsuke and Sami. But then the lights go out. The Fiend shows up, locks the mandible claw on Daniel Bryan, laughing like a maniacal clown the whole time. And then we went to commercial, and that's the last we would seen of any of that. We go back to the ring to see Tyson Fury, because that's why I'm watching SmackDown. That was the most interesting thing I watched at the Crown Jewel. I was so happy with that. We need to extend this. You need to threaten me with the possibility of a future tag team happening between Tyson Fury and Braun Strowman? The Furymen? No. No. All of this to have the B team come out, tell a few stupid one-liners, and then get their ass kicked by two big jerk-offs that nobody cares about. Keep telling me I'm wrong. SmackDown was great. Great like a migraine. We already talked about Carmella and Dana Brooke versus Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. The wrong team won. I have no idea why they made this decision, and once again, they ruined what was to come at SmackDown. Though Fire and Desire were never officially announced, they definitely were the better of the two choices here, and them not choosing that team to be part of Sasha's team at Survivor Series just takes all the wind out of everything, because the rest of the choices now are just as inconsequential as these, and nobody's going to care. You're giving everybody more reasons to not care than to care. Then we had the main event, Roman Reigns versus Baron Corbin, the king of nothing, the king of boredom. And what's the most important thing to talk about in this match? We had no NXT invasion at the end of this show. We had no brand supremacy brawl. Apparently nobody in NXT gives a shit about this either. They didn't care enough to come out and even stop this matchup because it was so unnecessary. But we had the Rudolph twins come out. We had Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode, Robert Roode, come out to help King Corbin. Why? You're supposed to be having an NXT invasion. If there was any time for NXT to come out and cause chaos, that was it, was it not? Why are we seeing Ziggler and Roode? Is King Corbin going to have a court? Are they going to be his two first jester choices? This match was made even worse by their involvement. And their involvement was only there because, God forbid, any man beats Roman Reigns on his own merit. And why King Corbin is beating Roman Reigns, God knows. I certainly don't care who wins this matchup one way or the other. But you didn't make Corbin look that great by having him needing help from two clowns, two court jesters that are coming off of a World Tag Team Championship reign. These guys show up to help and get single-handedly taken out by one man. Roman Reigns took out the Tag Team Champions of the world on his own twice in this matchup, but he couldn't get the job done and beat the King Corbin. At least be consistent. If the guy could beat two guys, one guy, former WWE champion, one guy, a former TNA World Heavyweight champion, multiple championships between them, he beats them up, knocks them out, takes them out, no problem. But King Corbin, off a distraction, is just a little much for the big dog. Why, so we can have a retribution match? Roman Reigns and King Corbin going to be on opposite Survivor Series teams? Is that going to make it mean anything to me? No. No. This was a bullshit show. A piss-poor effort to follow up from something that they threw out there that shook everybody to their core. Got everybody legitimately excited for Survivor Series. And it took them 7 days to deflate that balloon. Burst our bubble. And I can't take it. That is your episode of SmackDown. SmackDown goes off the air with King Corbin bowing and celebrating beating Roman Reigns tonight. And there was nothing to celebrate about this show. There should be no celebrating. I know that Monday Night Raw is going to be just as bad. They taped Monday Night Raw over in Manchester as well. We're going to get to see that tape on Monday. And I'm sure it's going to be just as bad, maybe even worse, than this episode of SmackDown. How you can follow the best episode of the year with an effort like this, that is absolute bottom-of-the-barrel garbage, is something that this reviewer will never ever understand. Thank you guys for joining us here once again. If you missed anything on the channel this week, make sure you go back and check it out. We did everything wrong with AEW. We did everything wrong with Monday Night War, with Monday Night Raw, as always. And we did do the everything's wrong with the Wednesday Night War last week. We will be producing this week's episode of that tomorrow, and it should be going up at some point tomorrow night. Hope to see you guys there. If not, maybe it'll show up Sunday, but we also have Full Gear going on tomorrow night, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't know if I'm going to buy it. I may, but it really depends on whether or not I'm home in time. I have family stuff, I have home life obligations, and sometimes that just has to take precedent. I will get to it eventually. I will try to have a review for Full Gear up on this channel for you guys as soon as possible, and for you guys to not miss it, the best way for you guys to not miss it is to make sure that you hit that notification bell right now. But more important than that is to hit the button next to that little bell which says subscribe. And you can subscribe right now and become one of the over 2,000 plus that know when you want your wrestling news full of fun, full of truth, and full of hammers that come down hard on all of the things wrong with the WWE and the AEW and everything in between. Sledgehammer TV is the place to be. Don't forget to share this video with each and every one of your wrestling buddies all over the wrestling world so that you can do your part in bringing more and more members to the Sledgehead Army, and we can continue to grow and be considered the newest, coolest, fastest rising faction in the entire YouTube wrestling community as we continue to take it over one sub at a time. And it starts with an awesome wrestling fan like you hitting that subscribe button right now. Make sure you smash that like button if I made you laugh, if I made you cry, if I made you absolutely crazy, or if I made you enjoy something about SmackDown, because I'm sure you guys didn't enjoy SmackDown, but at the very least you can come here and you can guarantee you are going to enjoy your time with me. My name is Nick Nightmare. This is the team. Thor the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. His tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue the Snowball. The most important member of the team, as always, is each and every one of you guys. That, my friends, is going to do it. And we are out of here. And we will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. Only on Sledgehammer TV. Right here on YouTube.com. Boom.